It's 7:30 p.m. across India and live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvi Taneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in Washington DC, Nick Harper. Nick, start of a new day and new week for all of us.
Good morning, Tanvi. Yes, it's 10 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. Another bright and sunny Monday morning. It's 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, a star witness is testifying in Donald Trump's hush money trial. His former fixer, Michael Cohen, will be live with our correspondent at the courthouse. And the Russian president makes changes in his Ukraine war strategy. But first, the headlines.
Phase 4 of India's elections sees 62% voter turnout till 5 p.m. local time. States of West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh lead in poll percentage so far. A pivotal moment in Donald Trump's hush money trial today as Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen testifies in a New York court. Russia ready if West wants to fight for Ukraine, says acting Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Russian President replaces Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. And in some respite for Indian consumers, retail inflation eases at 4.83% in April this year. Up first on the elections underway in India, the world's largest. So India on Monday voted for the fourth phase of the lower house elections with more than 62% voter turnout recorded till 5 p.m. local time in 96 seats across 10 states and union territories. Polling was held for 13 seats in eastern state of Uttar Pradesh, 11 in the western state of Maharashtra, 8 each in the central state of Madhya Pradesh and West Bengal, 5 in Bihar, 4 each in Odisha and Jharkhand, and 1 in the northern Jammu and Kashmir. A total of 1,717 candidates are in the fray in this phase. With this, polling has now been completed in 23 states and union territories. So in the fourth phase of India's elections, polling was also held in Jammu and Kashmir's Srinagar constituency with 24 candidates in the fray. Voting in this union territory was held for the first time after its special status got revoked in the year 2019. After the abrogation of Article 370, 1.7 million voters are eligible to vote across 2,135 polling stations across 5 districts. And now let's connect with DD India correspondents covering the elections for us. We are now joined by Amit Mukarji. Amit joins us from Madhya Pradesh. Amit, in Indore, we saw free breakfast was being provided to early voters there. So have you seen, tell us more about whatever you've seen so far, innovative experiences of the voters and how the elections have been held today in Madhya Pradesh.
Well, Tanvi, the prime objective of Election Commission of India out here in Madhya Pradesh was to get voters out from their houses for the 8 constituencies, which Lok Sabha constituencies, which went for polls today. And I would say, by and large, they have been very, very successful. Because if you look at the 2019 figures, on these same seats, on these same 8 seats, when the polling percentage was about 76%, when the state had actually witnessed about overall 71%. Now today, till about 5 o'clock, the overall voting percentage was 68%, and with many of the constituencies, in fact, 5 out of 8 constituencies registering voter turnout which were above 70%. So in fact, we the counting is still on, because till 5 o'clock these are the figures till 5 o'clock, and the actual voting goes up till 6 and even beyond, because actually the rule is if there are voters within the premises of a polling booth even after 6 o'clock and they have registered themselves, they have taken their slips for voting, they will have to be allowed to vote. So the counting is still on, the final figures are still being assessed, and we'll have to wait and see whether this year's, 2024's figures actually breaches the figures that we saw in 2019. And in fact, the weather also played, a big role. It had a big role out here, because towards the evening, it was very pleasant, and there were a short little shower also, which cooled things down. And this was during around 4 o'clock, so which made way for the voters who did not vote in the early half of the day to come and exercise their franchises.
Okay, thank you, Amit. Yes, thank you. Now let's go across to Dibendu Mondal. He joins us from Ranaghat, West Bengal. Interestingly, Dibendu, the state of West Bengal has recorded the highest poll percentage so far. It's nearing 76%. Right now, it's just 76.9, I guess. Please update us on the latest figure, and what have you seen so far throughout the day?
Well, Tanvi, that's right. It's about 75.91%, the exact figure of the voter turnout. It's, of course, the highest in the country. That has been the case with West Bengal for almost all elections. If I go back even 10 to 12 years, the West Bengal have been polling about over 80%. The final figures are yet to come in. We'll have to wait for about a couple of more hours before the Election Commission releases the final figures. But of course, the voting in Bengal have been enthusiastic. People came out of their house enthusiastically. We have been moving around multiple constituencies and assembly segments within the constituencies. And we have seen throughout the day long queues in multiple polling stations. Of course, the percentage will rise, because the figures that we have is up till 5:30 p.m. The final figures will be updated by the Election Commission. Back to you.
Okay, indeed. Now let's go across to Mark Lane. Mark Lane joins us from Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. Mark, what does this election mean for the two main contenders, the YCP and the TDP?
Well, Tanvi, it means a lot actually, because the TDP, if you look at it, Chandrababu Naidu, the leader of the TDP, was the chief minister of undivided Andhra Pradesh for a reasonable period of time. His party was started by the great NTR, and it is an offshoot of that. Of course, in those days, the state of Andhra Pradesh idolized the cinema idol who was N.T. Ramarao, and Chandrababu Naidu is his son-in-law. He made his name as a young chief minister with a vision, and he created the technology capital of Hyderabad, the Hyderabad, and all that. And he was the first chief minister also of the state of Andhra Pradesh, which was bifurcated in the year 2014 till 2019. And so he's hoping to come back to power this time round. But he's tied up, of course, with the Bharatiya Janata Party and the JSP, which are parties that will help add to his vote strength. And the Bharatiya Janata Party is led by Purandeshwari, who's actually the daughter of N.T. Ramarao. Now, if you look at the YCP is a party that came out of the Congress party, which was also a strong party in the undivided Andhra Pradesh. And Jagan Mohan Reddy has been the chief minister of the state of Andhra Pradesh since 2019 with a huge majority. And it's only his chance to lose that majority. But what has happened is that the Congress party has appointed his own sister, Jagan Mohan Reddy's sister, as the leader of the Congress party, hoping to try and make inroads into the YCP's vote bank, or the vote, even the party ranks, which were actually old congressmen. So this election means a great deal for both these leaders, because there is a third force that is coming up that might take over, or they might keep space to the third force over a period of time.
Okay,
Tanvi.
Mark, I believe it's also raining at your end, is it? And please tell us, please tell us about the voter turnout. Has it been enthusiastic so far? Because yes, as per the figures are concerned, Andhra Pradesh has also given us figures of 68% till 5 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes. So those are the figures that we have till now, till 5 p.m., 68%. But if I take you back to 2019, the voter share was 80, the voter turnout was 80% at that point of time. So we are, and this time the chief electoral officer was expecting it to go up to about 83%. Now, I was at the polling booths through the day, and I didn't see the queues slackening at all. They were not thinning at any point of time. In fact, they were just swelling at most periods of time. And I'm a little surprised that, the voter turnout has only come to 68, because there were people right up to 5 p.m. standing in a queue voting. So I'm presuming that the voter share will be about 79% at least by 6 p.m.
Which is also a good voter turnout. Thank you, Mark Lane, Amit Mukarji, Dibendu Mondal for giving us the latest on the poll pulse of the country. Okay, moving on now, on to the United States. So it is going to be a pivotal moment in Donald Trump's hush money trial today as star witness and former advisor to Trump, Michael Cohen, testifies. My colleague Nick Harper is in Washington, D.C. He takes it forward from me here and gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Nick, a friend turned foe for Trump in Michael Cohen?
That's right, Tanvi. The tables have turned with former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen testifying in the former president's criminal hush money trial that's currently underway in New York City. The case against Trump revolves around a $130,000 payment made by Cohen to adult film star Stormy Daniels. It was intended to secure her silence about an alleged sexual encounter with Trump dating back a decade before the 2016 election. Cohen, previously a high-ranking executive at Trump's real estate firm, who also served as his attorney, asserts that Trump instructed him to make the payment.
This trial is rigged. It's dishonest. It's a disgrace to New York. It's a disgrace to the country. I should be out campaigning now instead of sitting in a very cold courthouse all day long. This is a Biden prosecution. It's election interference at a level that nobody in this country has ever seen before. This is for third world countries, not for the USA.
Well, of course, Donald Trump there speaking a few minutes ago before court got underway this Monday morning, once again attacking the judge and this trial. Remember, Donald Trump says all of this is a witch hunt against him, perpetuated by the Democrats to try and stop his re-election bid in November's presidential election. Well, Michael Cohen's testimony is likely to be explosive over the next day or so as he takes to the stand. And to get more details on all of this, we're joined by DD India's Sally Patterson. She's live in New York City for us. So, Sally, what are we expecting from Michael Cohen's testimony? And just remind us of the bigger picture in this case. What could all of this mean for Donald Trump?
Well, Nick, Michael Cohen has already begun that crucial testimony in this hush money trial here in New York City. He started off by giving the jury just a sense of his relationship working with Donald Trump. He worked with him for many years. He says that really they had a very close relationship. He said Trump had an open door policy, and he said Trump had always told him to keep him informed about what was going on. He was required, he says, to keep Trump in the loop. He also says that he was required to push positive stories to the press about the former president, give them all the information they needed to know, and therefore suppressing more negative ones as well. Now, that's really what this case is all about, because Michael Cohen says that he paid $130,000 to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election in order to suppress an affair that she says she had with him many years before. Now, what's at stake here is whether or not Donald Trump directed Cohen to do that, because the prosecution alleges that Trump paid back that money to Cohen, $130,000 of it, and then filed it as a legal expense. The prosecution claims that that was illegal, and Trump could face time behind bars if he's found guilty. The former president has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts in this case. He calls it a political witch hunt, election interference by his rivals. He says it's all really an attempt to try and keep him out of the White House. He's, of course, running to be president once again at the end of this year. Nick?
Thank you, Sally. That was Sally Patterson joining us live from New York City. Well, from US politics to UK politics, and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said more will change in the next 5 years than has in the last 30 years. He made the comments while at the Policy Exchange think tank in central London. Sunak also said he would opt for national security over maintaining membership in the European Convention of Human Rights.
Now, I feel a profound sense of urgency because more will change in the next 5 years than in the last 30. I'm convinced that the next few years will be some of the most dangerous, yet the most transformational that our country has ever known. Now, I know that our international frameworks are outdated, so there may be flashpoints ahead with the ECHR. And if the Strasbourg court make me choose between the ECHR and this country's security, I will choose our country's security every single time.
To Russia now, where in a surprise move, Russian President Vladimir Putin has replaced his longtime defense minister Sergei Shoigu in a cabinet reshuffle. Shoigu, who had been battling criticism due to his handling of the Ukraine conflict, will now become the secretary of Russia's powerful Security Council, as well as taking up responsibilities for the military-industrial complex. Notably, Shoigu will be replaced by economist and former Deputy Prime Minister Andrei Belousov, as Moscow seeks to better utilize the defense budget. Well, all of this as Russia's acting Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said Russia is prepared if the West wants to fight for Ukraine on the battlefield. Lavrov, who served for 2 decades as the Foreign Minister, was speaking at a parliamentary hearing on his renomination in a new government after Putin started a fresh 6-year presidential term this month. The Kremlin has also said last week that sending NATO troops into Ukraine would potentially be extremely dangerous and could lead to World War III. In the conflict itself, Russia on Monday said that its troops have improved their tactical position in Ukraine's Kyiv region. Russia claims to have already seized at least 9 villages in the region, opening a new Ukrainian front in the ongoing conflict. Meanwhile, at least 16 Russians died and many were injured when part of an apartment block collapsed in Belgorod in the latest missile strikes by Ukraine. Israel is observing Memorial Day to honour fallen soldiers and victims of attacks over the years since the nation's creation back in 1948. A 2-minute-long siren sounded across Israel as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu attended the main ceremony in Jerusalem. All of this against the backdrop of the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. Families of Israeli hostages staged a silent demonstration on a Tel Aviv highway, pausing as sirens sounded in remembrance. Prime Minister Netanyahu said the return of the hostages is his main goal.
This is exactly what the war revolves around. It's either us, Israel, or them, the Hamas. We have exacted and we will exact a heavy price from the enemy for its criminal action. We will realize the goals of victory, and at the center of them is the return of all our hostages home. A victory that, with God's help, will ensure our existence and our future.
Well, DD India's Sarah Coates has been following all of this and sent us this report from Tel Aviv.
Certainly a lot of concern among US officials, but the Israelis remain defiant. We heard from the Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, who was speaking at a Memorial Day ceremony just a little earlier. He said that this war will continue with all hostages freed, saying that Hamas's rule and its military capabilities will be dismantled and will bring back prosperity and creativity to the state of Israel. Now, the Israelis have been saying that really their main goal here is to finish off these remaining 4 Hamas battalions, which they claim are stationed down in the southern area of Rafah. And also they say that some of these senior leaders like Yahya Sinwar are hiding in tunnels under Rafah. But it is important to point out that US media is reporting this morning, citing senior officials close to Israel's and the US's spy agencies, saying that Yahya Sinwar is not in Rafah. They say they have the intel to suggest that he's hiding in tunnels under Khan Yunis. So this could certainly invalidate the military's claims here as to why it is continuing this operation in Rafah.
An intricate, vivid yellow diamond is expected to fetch more than $7 million when it goes under the hammer at Sotheby's in Geneva on Tuesday. The diamond, called the Al-Nat, weighs just over 101 carats and has been described as one of the largest in the world. And Tanvi, the stone was repolished 20 years ago. It lost a carat back then, but it gained a degree of colour saturation.
Interesting, Nick. Also, this is the first time in 30 years that the yellow diamond will appear at an auction at the Mandarin Hotel in Geneva. Stunning piece there. Thank you, Nick. My colleague Nick Harper joining us all from Washington, D.C. You're watching DD India Global. Still to come on the show. India signs a pact to operate Iran's key Chabahar port for the next 10 years. And 49 employees of the Vatican Museum start an unprecedented labour dispute in a public challenge to Pope Francis' governance.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. Back to India. The annual retail inflation rate in the country marginally eased to 4.83% in April this year from 4.85% in the previous month. The Consumer Price Index, CPI inflation in March was at a 10-month low of 4.85%. The number has remained within the Reserve Bank of India's tolerance band of 2 to 6%. The inflation rate for fuel and light experienced a decrease of 4.24% in the month of April. India's Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Sarbanand Sonowal, held a meeting with his Iranian counterpart on a diplomatic visit to Iran on Monday. India signed a long-term agreement with Iran on the development of the Chabahar port. A 10-year contract has been signed between India Ports Global Limited and Ports and Maritime Organization of Iran, stating that an investment of $120 million will be granted for developing the port. The pact reaffirms India's firm footstep in the global supply chain and maritime sector. So as a commitment towards the development of the port, India has offered $250 million to Iran's foreign minister. The port will add to India's blooming economy as it provides sea access to the landlocked countries of the region and is considered a commercial transit hub. And speaking on the pact between India and Iran on the Chabahar port's development, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that the agreement will make way for investment as this will serve as a connecting link from India to Afghanistan, Central Asia and Eurasia.
The very clear expectation is that the Chabahar port, at least that part of the Chabahar port that we are involved in, that will definitely see more investments. It will see more connectivity linkages coming out of that port. And we believe today that connectivity is a very big issue in that part. International North-South transport corridor, which we are doing with Iran, Russia. Chabahar will connect us to that, also to Central Asia. We have a separate corridor, the IMEC corridor through Saudi Arabia.
And next we take a look at what else is happening around the world. US tech giant Microsoft on Monday announced that it will invest $4.3 billion in France as part of the annual Choose France Business Summit. Much of the investment money will focus on the artificial intelligence sector. Microsoft will also set up a data center in the French city of Mulhouse. 49 employees of the Vatican museums have started an unprecedented labor dispute in a public challenge to Pope Francis' governance. The employees filed a class action complaint with the Vatican administration demanding better seniority, leave and overtime benefits. The petition represents the first formal step in a mandatory conciliation process under the Vatican law. Tunisia is facing a growing political crisis. The nation's public prosecutor on Monday extended the detention of the IFM radio journalists Murad Zigidi and Buren Baisis. The two journalists were arrested over radio comments and posts made on the social media. And now let's travel back in time for an awe-inspiring look at the Japan's exquisitely crafted samurai armor. About 500 people dressed as samurais took part in a festival to honor the famous 16th century warlord Hojo Yujikun in Saitama Prefecture near Tokyo. These samurai warriors paraded through the town wearing this armor called kubuto, helmets and holding mock swords. So with that, we wrap up this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and you can also catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.